Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geekout, our weekly, almost weekly podcast. We do a fairly good job at keeping it weekly. Um, so eh, we're gonna talk about some news, and I thought, Mike, we talk about fudging dice and monster stats because I think we both differ in that thought process. So I think that will be fun. I'm not hard into the other side of your thought process, but as a DM that now rolls all his rolls in front of everyone, I do have some thoughts. Um, that being said, it's a very light news um week. Like we have like maybe four news articles, and one of them is introducing just something I think is cool. So, um, let's dive into it, shall we? Um, switching. Okay, the very first one, Munchkin, is coming out with an edition for Shadowrun. It has a Munchkin Shadowrun board and everything. I'm all aboard for this. I'm ready to jump on this train and buy it.
My Munchkin is very commonly played here, uh, results in arguments and all the fun stuff for which the game desires to inspire. It succeeds in our household.
and I just can't imagine this being any different. I mean, spend time in your lodge, go up a level, pepper spray punch grenade. If they can capture the Shadowrun feel, they have my money.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as this channel knows, I'm a big Shadowrun person. Anyways, I love Shadowrun. It's pity most of my friends and players don't love Shadowrun, but I love Shadowrun. That's all that matters. Um, but like some the art's still the same start style.
Yep.
Um, it's gonna be great. I love this because we have a person who's commonly here called Frog. He's I think this is essence of Frog right here, 100%. And I'll stand by that, Frog, if you show up or you see this secondary. Um, that being said, hey, all two Steve Jacksons and Catalyst Games for teaming up. I think it's gonna be great. Um, the next thing is a very short thing. Um, they've kind of released. I get the feeling that Watsy didn't want to release this. I feel like just reading the article, like it's like it kind of got like released in Game Informer before they were ready. Though Game Informer is not one to usually do that. So,
Leak things, right?
but this is the player's handbook, um, the standard edition player's handbook um, cover, according to Game Informer, which I'm sure it's the truth because Game Informer is pretty good about that. Um, we got some kobolds, some dragons. We got a paladin, a fighter, couple fighters.
Do we know what realm these guys were from when they were released?
They are going to release Greyhawk.
Right, right. Back into the books, they're going to release Greyhawk. I was just curious if these characters and some of their other releases and some of their other books were coming out of the same realm or just being used as art here.
I
I'm
think they'll
not
just.
picky
I
and
don't
I'm not
know.
based on it.
I
Just
mean,
curious.
I could kind of tell you that this person looks like one of the dwarfs that's from Greyhawk, and she's from Greyhawk. So maybe these are characters
So
from
my
Greyhawk.
likely all from Greyhawk.
It's a possibility. I'm not saying that's true. Um, but it feels like Greyhawk-ish. Even the style feels Greyhawk-ish. Like if you think of the Greyhawk, Greyhawk has that black and white feel, and this kind
Yeah,
of
back
has
to
that black and
three,
white.
3.5.
Yeah. No, two. Greyhawk 3.5 was Forgotten Realms.
Was it? I thought it was released
Mm-mm.
as. I'm
No.
guessing I'm thinking of the Greyhawk Gazette, the Gazetteer
The Gazetteer was
is probably what
released
I'm
for
thinking of.
3.5, but the
Ah, okay,
actual
gotcha.
books were Greyhawk. Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms.
Um, I won't lie, Greyhawk's not my favorite. I know it's the
I've
original, but it's not my favorite.
I've
Um,
been in Forgotten Realms for so long that I've forgotten the other realms.
so this is, I mean, this will be cool. That speaking of which, this is the special edition that was. This was revealed by Polygon, so it's possibly a leak because
Right?
Polygon
Is
does have that capability where they have leaked things in the past.
now they had talked about there being a oh, I forget what they call it, but like a bookstore cover, right? So you have the cover that you get when you purchase from online, and then you have a different cover for those that are being sent out to the bookstores,
Yeah, this one says
if
that
I'm not
it
mistaken.
is the alternate player's handbook cover. It doesn't say where it's getting
Right.
it from. It does have the artist's name, so I feel like it's not leaked art. Um,
Yeah, and I've
so,
seen it on a couple other sites as well.
but I like this one more. If I was to get one of the two, I'd probably try to get this one. Um, and they have come out with the price too. They have announced the price of the player's handbook. It's going to be $49.99, which is standard pricing.
Yeah.
Um, but ironically, if you get it on, I'll be interested to see how they handle D&D Beyond. Are they going to charge the $49.99 for D&D Beyond? Because that's kind of ridiculous.
Oh, you're talking for the digital
Hmm. I
library
mean, you're going to
access,
have the
whatever that looks like.
SRD for free, but there's going to be things outside the SRD in the
Yeah.
book. So I assume there's going to be things outside the SRD. I mean,
Yeah. And it's, I couldn't tell you what the pricing looks like right now either. So, like, is it normal pricing for things? I would say it's probably going to follow its standard model.
uh, it wasn't normal pricing for a while. They recently went to normal pricing on things. I think it was Tasha was the first one that they went to regular pricing for. Um,
Okay.
so um, don't quote me on Tasha. It could have been later, but like I know the newest one that they're releasing, the Vern one. That one's going to be normal pricing.
Okay. Yeah. So the digital on this for like Tasha's looks like 26 ish.
Okay, so that's then it wasn't Tasha's, but I maybe
Now
it's
that
gonna
I mean the physicals are still the same.
right.
Even Vecna's down to is
That
30
no,
for
that no, that's why I was.
the physical. Excuse me, for the digital. Wow. Now
Hmm.
60 for the
Okay,
physical. So maybe I mean I imagine they would stay with that same model.
I hope so. They made mention that they weren't going to, so I didn't know when it was going to start. Um, because I might buy the digital version. I probably won't buy a hard copy unless I can get this cover because this cover is kind of nice. I like how it's just resting at a camp.
Yeah. And it's not it doesn't look like it's at least from the uh description of the picture, it doesn't look like it's named characters either, right? It's just
Right.
archetypes.
Mm-hmm. It'll be cool.
I tend to have a hard copy core set for most of the systems that I
Yep.
really enjoy, and then everything else after that ends up being digital. So,
Yeah, I tend to do the same thing. I tend to have a hardcore books. I don't honestly know if I'm gonna get the D&D one or whatever they're calling it now. Um, I think they're calling it D&D 2024 now. Um, we'll see. I'm up in the air. I don't play it, so the only time I play it is as a player. So, so Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous DLC released announced. So Path of the Righteous, Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous was a video game, pretty successful game, and Dance of Mask will be it's released on June 13th. It's the sixth DLC, a part of the season pass.
wow.
Um, so I figured this was worth putting on the page. Looks like it's going to be $11.99 by itself. Obviously, you probably can get it in a bundle with the season pass. So, well, I mean, I hear this game's fairly decent. I haven't played it. I don't know if you have.
Uh, no, I haven't. I think the last digital RPG I played was the most recent Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. I still didn't make it through that full as a playthrough.
It's all right. There's not going to be any DLC for that one, so you got plenty of time to come out with it.
It's more
Um,
that I get sidetracked. Oh, look at that shiny object, and then bored, and then on to another game, and then oh well, let's go back and pick up where I was with that one.
that is literally the news for the week. There is no real good news for this week whatsoever. Um, but we do have some backer kits that are some really good ones. Um, Black Powder and Brimstone is a grimdark rules light art heavy book. Basically, it's compatible with Morkborg, so I'm figuring it's going to be a D20 OSR
Right.
type deal. Um, you can download the quick starter guide for free. Looks pretty cool. It's definitely got that Morkborg feel.
Yep.
I like Morkborg. I think Morkborg is very fun for one shots. Um, it's a great system for one shots, and I feel like it's not so great for campaigns, but it's definitely good for one shots. I don't know if this one will be the same. I'm assuming it probably will be. Um, they have some cool monsters. It looks really good. I won't lie. If I had a job that was paying me right now, I'd probably buy it. But I don't have a job that's paying me yet, so a couple weeks I'll get paid. Um, a game that is coming, actually out. This one's out. I'm sorry. Is Playing
Playing
God.
God.
It's a TTRPG. Basically, you play a god. Think Grecian. So it's very Grecian. Talk about travel, trickery, water. Um,
All the domains. Yeah.
all the domains, basically. It's gonna be printed by Drive Through. Honestly, that makes me a little bit less interested in it because I know how quality of Drive Through is lately. Not their fault. I'm sure the game is really good, but Drive Through's quality is not where it needs to be. As somebody who is selling on Drive Through, um, so this looks interesting. It's basically you create worlds and people, spawn titans, unleash catalysms, attract worshippers, commit and decide, and more. It has a deck of fates. You can play with a GM or without a GM, so it's GMS less. You can play as little as one or two players.
When I
So yeah,
first when I first just read like the little snippet on it, it made me think that old game, PC game, Good and Evil, I think was the name
yeah,
of that game.
it's similar to that from what I saw. Um, this one looked interesting. This is called Surrey's Chest of Wonders. Silk Road D&D 5e. Um, this one seems more like a chest of. There's 150 magic
Hmm.
items, 3 new adventures, new NPCs, new monsters, new battle mats, and magic item cubes. Um, it looks really interesting. And if you combine it with their other thing, you can get a total of like 400 something
Yeah.
um, magic items. I know magic items was an important thing when I was doing D&D 5e.
The tragic treasure one I actually have, Asendor's Vault of Tragic Treasure,
How do you like it?
and they did a great job. I like it not necessarily to pull things directly out of the book, but kind of the ideas that they put in the lore that they put behind some of the cursed items or ways to integrate those items into the party or into the game in a more devious, underhanded manner. And some of them are, simply what it's the what it's called versus how it's spelled, right?
Mm.
So an easy one would be Dragon Slayer. I know that's a very old one, but Dragon Slayer is what it's called, but it's actually spelled Dragon's Lair.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. So there's some interesting play on words in there.
Yeah. So I'd
Um,
be curious to look at what Surai's chest has as well.
hence the
Sayuri's,
reason
yeah, excuse me.
Surrey's chest. That's a play on words. Nice. Okay. Um, it looks interesting to me. It's already funded.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it looked interesting. Um, that being said, this one is on my radar, and here's the reason why. So there's a company called Two Little Mice. They're an Italian company, and they make a um book called Outgun. So it uses Yahtzee as its mechanic. So the
Okay.
rules for Yahtzee is what what how it functions. Basically, the number of pairs that you get is the number of successes that you have. And if you get a Yahtzee, something extraordinary happens. Um, but they're coming out with an Indiana Jones version for that game.
Yeah.
Which I am super on board with because the Outgun is a spy slash action game book. Um, and then this one's going to be Indiana Jones or um, actually I feel like it, excuse me. I feel like it's more like Uncharted than it is Indiana Jones. Um,
Right. I'm curious how much they take from the old original adventure game
uh,
system.
not much, I
Not
bet.
game system, but because that's, I mean, once I saw it, that was the first thing that came to mind was that system. Um, Obviously, the die roll perspective is different, as you already explained with the outgunned.
These
That'll
guys
be that'll be
make
interesting.
amazing, beautiful books.
Okay.
FYI, if you've never seen any of the books, they're amazing. They have Outgunned. They have House of Mesquitier, which is basically a giant house that you play as mice,
Hmm.
not anamorphic mice, mice.
Right. Just nice.
And that series is huge. Like it's like this thick if you get all the books together. It's like 1,700 pages. It's huge. Um, in fact, Wes from DM Tales is currently reading it, so DM Tales should have a review on it eventually. It's taking him a while to get through though. But these guys are great. And if you don't know who these guys are, look up DM Tales. He does an interview with them. It's amazing. It's talking about Outgunned. Um,
Okay.
but 7 days before it starts. But if you back it now, if you say your early bird bonus, if you join the early bird, you'll get 2 metal dice coins out of it. Um, and Outgunned is I want to play it. It's gonna be played on my channel. I just haven't figured out when.
So I was just looking at the download that they had for it for the quick start guide.
Yeah, probably very similar to Outgunned. Just quick starter guide. Um, but it looks really good. Um, that being said, last one is one that we should all know. In 102 days, my game's coming out. Don't forget, my game's coming out. That being said, I did release Easy D6 version of Grimwood City um, to the public. It is on Drive-Thru RPG. Um, but wait for my system. My system works better with it. So that was the last one. Uh, besides that, we have some coming up on channel. Next week, we're going to have Andy from Legendary Tales. He's going to talk about Tales of Legend, his agnostic fantasy system. So it's fantasy based, but like it doesn't limit you to low, high, or medium fantasy. It just kind of like it. It kind of just allows you to write your own world. Like there's no setting involved. It's just system mechanics. So
Hmm.
that will be interesting. And then on June 4th, which is the following week for Grimwood, we're going to have Dr. Bruce Ballin. He has a new book for Easy D6 called Miss Moore. And he wrote the spy version of it called. Oh my god, my brain just went. What do you mean? You don't want to know what that is? Um, Assignment Danger. That's what it is. So Assignment Danger, which is a spy action game. We're gonna have him on, and we're gonna talk about Miss Moore. I'm curious to know if he has any special. So with Assignment Danger, he came up with a psycho, a like a psychology mechanic to like deal with people's psyche.
Okay.
I actually use it in Grimwood. I got his permission to add it to Grimwood because I thought it was so cool how he used actual psychology to write
Right.
this table and mechanic to handle what somebody would experience during like PTSD type scenarios.
Right.
So I included it in Grimwood City. It's included in Assignment Danger. I'm curious if he has any other cool mechanics for Mistmore. I have played a playtest of Mistmore, and it was fun. Um, so I'll be interested to see what he comes up with. It was creepy and it was fun. And then on June 18th, we're gonna have John from Nat Handsome Games. We're gonna have a conversation about his new Kickstarter Fable Empire, which is a conversion of his. So he had a Kickstarter called Fable Empire that was going to be his own system, and there wasn't enough interest in it. So he's coming out. He's modifying that to for the 5e element. So he's going to have 5e edition of it. It's kind of the same. It's kind of different, he said. But basically, it's grim fairy tales. But I don't want to say grim fairy tales because it's not grim. It's just fairy tales. The fairy tales like
Right.
world, and a fairy tale setting for the 5e. So we're gonna have a talk with him on June 18th about that. Um, that is all I have for what we have for news and interesting stuff. Besides that, I would like to talk to you about your opinions on um, fudging dice.
Yeah. So I don't know so much that it's the dice. So one, I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't bother me. Um, as long as it's keeping within the heart of the game that we're playing, right? But in general, it's not something that bothers me, and it's not usually the dice roll. It'll be what are the bonuses, or why are the bonuses there? More from a creature stats perspective than an actual dice, because it's the same thing. When I roll for dice rolls, I do it on an open table. It's whatever I'm adding in after that that I may play with from there to allow it to hit or remove it so that it doesn't hit. Some type of modifier there to help the party. And I think it really kind of depends on where the party's at and what actions the party has taken thus far.
The problem I have with that is I've had DMs abuse that power.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
agree.
frustrated me as a min maxer who knows the system and knows exactly what a monster can do.
Yeah,
Because I always build, I don't always build, but when I build my players for D&D 5e, I always build in some kind of background where they understand monster lore. Because I can't metagame not knowing it because I've DM'd it so long. It's ingrained into me that I know what a vampire has for hit points. I know how a vampire has for movements. It's just ingrained in my head. So it's hard
right.
for me to metagame. So I always plan to make sure that my character understands monsters. Um, because of that. Even if the DM makes me make a roll for it, I don't care. But I have that kind of background in my story.
Right.
Um, I have a problem with fudging dice. If I roll a nat 20 at the table, it should be a nat 20.
Yeah,
I don't think I should
agreed.
drop it down, or if I roll a critical failure, it should be a critical failure. Um, and the big thing on TikTok right now is that people are saying people are on both sides. I used to fudge my dice rolls. I don't see the point to do it anymore. Hey, DM Tails, we're talking about fudging dice rolls. Something that you should probably learn to do because playing in your game on Friday, Thursdays, you really cannot hit
Just
us
say
lately.
no.
Yes. We're both kind of on the side that fudging dice rolls isn't okay. Um, Mike does do modifiers based on the situation. I would say, Mike, is that the case?
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Which I
makes
mean, it comes
sense.
out. It comes out to the same, right? The end result of that, whether I'm changing what my role was or adding a modifier plus or minus accordingly, the end result is still the same, right? But you're 100% correct, Dave. I think it has to be used within a set circumstance. It's not a free reign as a GM, but it's keeping with the story and keeping the story moving. That's how I use them in. So is it every combat? No, it's not every combat. Is it every time? No, it's not every session. but when we're in right when energy is very high at the table, how do you keep that energy high and keep that momentum going? So if there would be something that happens that drastically lowers that or stops that, I would say that's kind of what I pull that in.
See, I could see if the environment was acting against the enemy. Like you, okay, look here. So, DM Tails, I should be able to do this. No, I can't. Okay, I don't have that on the screen. Um, so he basically says that he'll add modifiers, but he'll be like, okay, it's boring. Here we go.
Right.
Um, I'm okay with adding modifiers if you have a reason to add it. Example, you have fire and creatures that suddenly appear in cold environment, or the environment suddenly becomes cold for them. Yeah, they should get a penalty for their attacks. That makes
Right.
sense. But just to save a PC, I'm kind of on the mend of not anymore. No, I used to do that. I used to be like, okay, sure, we're gonna make you guys all heroes of this game, and I still feel that way. I still feel my players are heroes of the campaign. But if the bad guy hits you hard and they hit you hard, they hit you hard.
Yeah.
I roll on an open table. I do not hide my rolls. My rolls are open
No.
to everyone to see. Um, as this channel knows, because they see me roll on. Um, and sometimes I roll really good. Sometimes I roll really bad, but most of the time I roll really good. It pisses off my players. See, I'm not good on adding HP to the creature to make it epic. I think the best way to make a creature epic is to give it a whole second level of HP. So what I'm saying is like make the boss fight have a second level.
Right.
Don't
Add something
just
else to the mix to complicate it.
yeah make a complication reason why it's happening. Um, oh, that troll that you just whiffed in one round. Yeah, he has regeneration, and you guys aren't paying attention, and he regenerates. Or, the vampire that you haven't staked through the heart, or those are just regenerating. Let me think of one. The orc boss. You stab him, and he start bleeding. Yeah, I can understand putting the encounter together too fast and not thinking ahead because that happens.
Yeah.
So I sometimes put encounters together usually it's 20 minutes before the game. Let's be honest. Um, and that's another thing. As long as they don't kill it within the first shot, I will throw minions at my players. Just load them up with minions. More minions coming in. Um, though that being said, my Friday night group did throttle me pretty heavily on Friday night, even though I almost killed them. Um, 15 glass cannons go. Yeah, exactly. Throw them with a whole bunch of deadly enemies, and if they hit them, they're dead, but they can hurt them
Right.
on the premise. Uh, that being said, like I guess I'm wishy washy about this situation. Like TikTok, everybody seems to be firmly in their stats. Like, no, we shouldn't do it, or yeah, you should do it because it makes the fight more epic. I'm kind of wishy washy. I'm like, if it makes the fight more epic, do it. But if it doesn't, what's the point?
I think the concern from a player perspective is GMs abusing it, right?
which
And
happens.
oh, fully agree. And I think, but if that is your concern, then there's also I'm making some assumptions. If that was my concern, then my concern wouldn't just be about fudging that roll. It's about the whole free reign that there is within inside many RPG systems, right? It's written to give you an understanding and an immersive world, not to say it's not like a not inherently always like a board game where here are the rules and this is what they are. Period. You're, but this goes back to kind of player expectations too. Are you wanting to play in a simulation, or are you wanting to play in something that's close enough and fun?
It's why I
Because those that diversity builds how heavy those rules are.
because I'm such a wishy-washy DM. It's why I need somebody else to actually run my system. Because I keep running into a scenario where, okay, did I actually write a rule for that or did I just make it up on the table?
Right.
Because I will make up rules on the table if the action calls for it and there's no rule, I will make a rule. Which I mean, I know all of us do that, but I'm kind of like I'm to the point where make up the rule now, find out what it actually is supposed to be, and correct it for next time that happens.
Right. Well, absolutely.
Instead of spending 20 minutes looking up the rule.
Yeah. How do we save time? Again, it's about that momentum, right? How do we keep the momentum on the table that we have built so that we can continue carrying forward?
Mike, you play
Um,
D&D 5e. There's no such thing as momentum on the table.
Not
It's
everything gets
2 hour
bogged
combat.
down.
It's 2 hour combat, and that's what it is.
That's that's because I'm playing with preteens and teens most of the time. That's the
No,
majority of the
no,
table.
no. It's because D&D 5e takes 2 hours to do combat.
But it does when players do not decide until it's their turn, or don't have. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. It's not that they don't decide; it's that they don't. When it comes to their turn, you're repeating everything that happened just
All right,
previous to their turn with
I'm
the
not
edge of the
hating of
players.
D&D. I really do like playing D&D. I can't stand DMing it because it's just so boring as a DM. Just to sit there, like it's just not. It doesn't have enough. Yes, it's boring and tedious, and as a DM, it's even more boring and tedious because you have to maintain all that and all those number crunching type scenarios.
So I was playing White Wolf prior to this.
White Wolf is amazing.
Uh, See, there's so much active die rolls inside White Wolf that I would say that becomes tedious.
Yeah, but you can have a combat in 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most.
Mm. With all the counter rolling and rolling and counter rolling
Are we
and
talking
the
fifth or
excessive die
fourth?
pools for everything. Oh man. So that would have
Because
been
that's a
10-ish
big
years ago.
difference. So it's probably fourth. Um, Fifth edition gets rid of a lot of that junk.
Oh, did it?
Mm-hmm. I like fifth edition White Wolf. I don't mind fourth edition White Wolf either, but fifth edition's kind of neat. A lot of people have problems with that. They did a lot of lore changes,
Ah,
but um, I still think 5e combat takes the longest combat I've ever seen in an RPG.
it may.
It's the longest combat. It takes 2 hours to do 7 minutes worth of combat. At minimum, 2 hours. Probably more like 3 for 7 minutes worth. Because 7 minutes would be 70 rounds.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
You take something like Easy D6 or something, you have 7 minutes combat in 7 minutes. I don't know. I
What do you think drives the length of that combat?
Character options. I think there's just too many.
Okay, so again, it's players making a decision at the time for which it is their turn, as opposed to, in my mind,
I
looking at
would.
it from a player perspective, as opposed to, like, as a player, I'm listening to what's happening at the table, so that when it comes my turn, here are the actions that I'm taking.
I'm not disagreeing with you that it's player action on D&D, but I have player action on my system, and you can get in combat within 10-15 minutes and finish it. Now, there are sometimes combat goes longer. Like last Friday, combat went about an hour. But I kept changing the scenario. Like I put up a firewall,
Right.
and I made it so it dragged out. I didn't like they would have been able to kill my characters quickly. I also gave them the monsters. I gave them extra hit points to start at the beginning of the combat. Before combat even started, I expected them to have more hit points. Um, so I was expecting it to take a little bit longer. But you can usually finish combat within 15 to 20 minutes in my system, and there's plenty of player because it's a feat based system. So you have all these
Right.
abilities. Um, I don't think it's necessary player choice. I also think it's also action economy in D&D 5e. I think the action economy is a little bit more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But that's me. I'm a 5e hatist, I guess. I didn't ever thought I was, but I guess I am. Um,
A lot more experience in other systems. Yeah.
I do have. I've been playing 5e since the beta, so I guess I have quite a lot of experience with it. So, um, but that being said, yeah. So fudging dice, I'm the combination of 5e's action economy and the way most folks actually play the game is horrible mix. Yeah, I just think like you can streamline 5e's combat. You know, honestly, they did streamline it and nobody liked it. It was 4e. Fourth edition had a very streamlined action economy because everybody's power works the same way. So intended versus interpreted.
Interpreted. Right. So sorry, it was to DM Tales. So you're
That's fine.
saying the way that it's done versus the way that people are doing it is a horrible mix. So is the question then again, the way it was intended to be done versus the way we as players or we as GMs allowing players, but the way that players are actually doing it.
Interpreted. Okay.
Right. And I agree. I think as written, it should flow very quickly, but it does not.
I also think initiative should be re-rolled every round. And I will die on that cage. If I get stuck with initiative 1, I shouldn't have to be stuck 10 minutes at initiative 1. It's just not right.
Yeah. So but I'll go back to like that was some of the stuff that I really enjoyed about Daggerheart and some of the things that I have enjoyed about other um, tabletop miniatures games. It's kind of the way that they play with initiative, and that's what I've started taking into my D&D games. Is so like Tenaries is one that we play a lot.
If I
It was originally
ever
Tenaries Arena. Go ahead.
if I ever ran 5e again, if I ever ran it, initiative would be completely changed. I do a homebrew initiative rule and it would be completely wiped out. I 100% probably would go the Dragonbane route. which is there's 10 cards. You dealt those cards. The DM go. All the monsters go on the DM's turn.
Yeah, the way that I like Tenaries and the way that it runs is players go first. Players choose who's going. Um, and it runs kind of back and forth. So player goes, and if a player attacks a foe, then that foe goes. Right. So that slows down combat because you're going back and forth, player GM. But or you flip over to kind of the Daggerheart approach, which I really enjoyed as well, which is players pick, players go. Um, they pick their order, and then players go until they what is it? Until they miss or roll a fear. I think
So
it's until they miss.
100%.
But
Every time I've played with players choose their initiative, 100%. I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go first? Do you want to go first? I don't know. Do you want to go first? Just pick a
okay,
person to
that's
go.
that I don't have an issue with because I always have one particularly one of my children sitting at the table. Can I go first? Can I go first? I'm going first.
Well, you
Yes,
play
that's you.
mostly with children, so that would make sense. Most adults that I've played with, they're like, well, I'm not sure I want to go now. Well, maybe you should go. No, you should go. And then it takes like 2 minutes for them to decide who's going to go. And it's like, why are you doing this to me? Hence the reason why I like the Dragon Main cards. You just deal them out every
Right,
round, and they take those cards and they go. If they want to trade cards with somebody, they can.
right. So they can quickly adjust accordingly from there.
Exactly. I like the Dragon Main system because they can change initiative order if they want,
Hmm.
but it gives them a starting initiative order so they know where they're at. So they don't hem and
Yeah,
haw about where they're going, who's going next.
yeah.
And yes, but technically it's still, if you read it in the book, DM Tales, I know that's how you play EZT6, but if you read it in the book, it's that the players kind of still choose who goes first. It's not that you really point to somebody and say, what do you do? It just, EZD6 is like, you just, whoever wants to go first goes first. And you run into that same problem of hemming and hawing. Unless you take initiative as a DM and say, what do you do? You're you're really not driving that initiative order. But that's the point, is like, why even give them the choice? Just deal them out cards and let them rearrange themselves if they want. Uh, Hence the reason why my system uses the Dragon Main system for initiative. Actually, it's a modified Dragon Bane. It actually uses a suit of cards, deck of cards, so you could do it with the deck of cards. So you don't have to do 1 through 10. You actually have 1 through 13, which gives you more versatility.
Right.
Not much because it's only 13 versus 10, but it does give you a little bit better. I think if I ever played Easy D6 again, which I probably will, I'll probably use the Dragon Bane's initiative just to solve that hemming and hawing problem that I get. Because I'm not one to just pick a person and tell them to do something. Yes, it does. Cypher runs into a very similar problem. Um, because you're pointing, you end up as a DM pointing to somebody and saying,
Assigning.
"What do you do?" And
Right.
that's basically you assigning the initiative instead of the players doing the initiative order, which is not the way the systems are built. The systems are built so the players can choose the initiative order.
Right. Especially when you have classes that play off of the capabilities of that initiative order. Right. So um, sneak attack abilities, or if you go back to like 3.5 and 3.0, where if you were higher in initiative order, then those individuals didn't get their dex bonuses to things, which again affected sneak attacks and things that you could do. So the initiative order being able to play into those class capabilities
You
still
know,
matters.
I guess I should do a cards. I should design some cards for initiative for my game and give them out as add-ons. Yeah, antisocial enough to pick on someone who doesn't bother me. It bothers me. Uh, I I I feel like I'm controlling their initiative at that point, and I don't want to control initiative. I want initiative to be somewhat random.
Well, there are other ways for which I guess as well, most systems, I won't say every system, but most systems for them to affect where they fall in the initiative order, right? Burn, inspiration, or given whatever mechanic is similar to that to add X amount of a die roll to whatever your roll was. So add a D6 or add a D4 to any die roll,
I
right? Just
tried that with
common
Grimwood.
mechanics in systems.
I tried that with Grimwood, and it just dragged out initiative ordering. I found deck of card was easier.
Easier to assign, yeah.
It was a lot easier
How
to
do,
assign. So, all
what are you
right.
doing? I get it.
So
Okay. So trying to see what I can do.
yeah, DM Tales seems to get more creativity. I just get people hemming and hawing and not knowing what to do when I say, "What are you doing?"
Well, but if I would take, I would love for that what GM Tales is talking about to be the prop. This is what I would like to do, right? So the player has an idea. This is what I would like to do. Is that possible? Well, everything is possible. Just how are the die rolls going to come out?
Pretty much.
But
I mean,
but that goes back to how set in a system are you to the rules of that system? Because no, not everything is possible. Because there are rules in how quickly you could do that, or how many of these actions can you take, or how right,
you're right.
which goes back to our whole beginning in conversation.
Like my system has, you can do one action, one quick action, and movement in a turn, and that's it. Or you can do two quick actions and movement, or you can just do double movement. Those are your three
Mm-hmm.
options. You don't get any more options. That's what you get. So if somebody wants to double move and attack somebody, they can't do that.
Right.
It's just not possible. Um, I don't even have spells that can do that. I don't have.
If they have sprint, don't you have sprint?
I
I
do
could. I
have.
mean, I could
I
sprint
I
double my
have.
distance and then do
I
it.
have quick movement, which adds 10 to their movement, so they can
Yeah.
go 40 instead of 30 feet. But it doesn't actually. And it boosts their initiative by. How do I have the? It doesn't boost their initiative anymore. It used to. Yeah, now it just adds to movement.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um, you did, Dan. Just come in just at the right turn, not for players not paying attention and not knowing what to do on their turn. So we're talking basically about like initiative and turn order and how I think it's essential but yet stupid all at the same time. And I think the card initiative is the best way of going that I have found. Um, where we're talking about how like easy D6 and cipher, you can kind of just like anybody can go at any time, so you usually end up with a hemming and hawing. So usually pointing to somebody and saying what are you doing can change the way the initiative flows. Um, but I'm a big. I hate D&D 5e initiative. Absolutely hate it. Can't stand it. 100% will stand on that hill and fight because it is the crappiest initiative system. In essence, that probably puts Pathfinder on that too, because Pathfinder uses a very
Very similar.
similar
Yeah.
initiative order. I do not like that I roll a 1 and then end up last for 10 hours. I know it's not 10 hours, but it sure does feel like 10 hours, Mike.
It's only two. It's only two.
Oh, it's only 2.
It was only 7 minutes of combat, 2 hours, right? We already talked about
But I cannot stand when that happens. I'm like, oh, just re-roll initiative every round. It just. But the problem is they have an initiative system that takes forever to figure out who's going first.
Again, I go back to I think a lot of that is DM Tails pointed out earlier, intended versus impacted or interpreted and how it goes.
So the system that I like Avenue Studios is Dragon Main's system, which is or Savage Worlds has a very similar system. You deal out cards. Those cards are your initiative order. The problem I have with Savage Worlds is it uses the full deck, so you tend to get like somebody who has a 9 of spades versus a 9 of hearts. Who goes first? You have to figure it out, so it takes time. It's not so big on a VTT, but when in person, it takes time to figure that out. What I like about Dragon Main is it uses 10 cards. DM goes on all creatures go on DM's turn, and each round you deal out those 10 cards, and it's 1 through 10, so you go from first to the end. See, and
Yeah,
it again adds to that initiative. I
but I
just
think
don't like initiative in 5e style
I
games.
so I really enjoy that approach, but I'm a as a GM again, and I enjoy the rules that are built into this system, and this is kind of what it looks like, and then I homebrew everything else from there. So that sounds great. No, let's not do that. That doesn't seem to work. That idea there with PF2E and how that works with the skills and pulling the skills in
I
based
challenge
on
you,
a
Mike.
situation, a scenario. But
Take 10 cards, deal them out, and play it that way and see how you like it.
right, but we go back to the prior conversation. Is it about speed or is it about kind of what makes sense in the immersive environment? What are we trying to get at? And we go back and forth on what do I like versus what do you like, and then what's more beneficial and what's not.
I give you
I
try it once. You'll never
oh I
go
know
back.
it goes so much faster.
Ah, so on that note, Dan, I am doing a West March game, which basically for Dragon Main. I'm still in the middle of building it. It's probably going to be July, but I'm going to have a dedicated. Woohoo! Ooh, thanks for the follow, rolled low. I'm going to have like a dedicated day, and anybody who wants to join can join that day. If you don't want to join, fine, don't join. And it's just going to be a West March. It's going to be one shots left and right. I'm going to have kind of stem a stream throughout all of them. So if you end up doing some of them, you'll see continual story. But in general, it's a West March game, so it's just come as you go. And it's all going to be Dragonbane. So if you want to play Dragonbane, look for the notice in July for people to join.
Okay.
Oh God, Mike, you have to try Dragonbane's initiative. I don't think you'd go back. I really don't think you'd go back.
From a simplicity standpoint, I fully agree with you. I think in when I played War Stories by oh my god, that's embarrassing. I can't remember who makes it now. Is that Firespite? But when I played War Stories, I agree. Their initiative works the same way. There's like 10, 15 cards, whatever it is, and you just get dealt a card, and then you go then. No, from a simplicity standpoint, it absolutely it is the simplest way to be able to do it because you're
So,
getting it assigned. You don't have a choice, and there's nothing that modifies it that you have to play with from your character. There's no other references you have to do. It's
so
here's your initiative order.
here's how Dragonbane handles speed differences. If you have a quick speed type power, you get dealt two cards and you get to pick the one.
Right.
That means that you have a better choice. You can go faster or slower based on what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, I debated about putting that into my game. I have, um, but phase initiative, both order and chaos. Are I think we've talked about this. I hate phase initiative because I feel like um. Are you talking making sure that we're talking about the same thing, Rolled Low? You're talking about like players go and then DM go, or DM goes and then players go type deal? I just want to make sure we're talking about the same situation. Mike, you do have to do my Westmarsh game at least once.
I assumed as much.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding what Rolo says. Because if it's the initiative order I'm thinking, I'm not fully sure I'm following what he's saying on phased initiative. I want to make sure. Because if it's a situation where DM goes, players go, DM goes, players go, I'm okay with those initiatives. It's better than the 5e initiative order. I really hate the 5e initiative order. Can you tell, Mike?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought it was 5e in general, Hades.
No, that's not true. I do like a lot of things about 5e. I like playing 5e.
Except for combat
No, as a min maxer, I
and
love
initiative.
combat. As a min max player, I love combat. As a DM, I can't stand it. Oh, like in Crown and Skull. Yeah, where players go, DMs go, it's like, yeah, that's not bad. I would prefer that over the 5e initiative. Roll a d20 and then go the highest. Plus your initiative bonus. Um, yeah, I roll a. I'm in the middle of reading Crown and Skull, and I don't mind the initiative order in Crown and Skull. It's decent, but I run into the same situation. Players going, what do I want to do? Do we want to do we want to do that, or do we do the I run into that same situation where the players can't make a decision. And that's just a player issue in general. Let's
That's
be
I say yeah,
honest.
that's system agnostic. Yeah.
If players could just make a decision, combat would go faster.
That's what I said.
But it still wouldn't go fast in 5e. Freaking 10 rounds is a minute.
Now, that's a system thing though, right? Do how many other systems have that time phased out like that to say this is how long one round of combat is?
Most do. Most tell you
Yeah.
how long a combat round is, and
Okay.
it's usually 6 seconds. I'm just picking on D&D.
I know.
I just can't. I hate getting a 1 and then stuck in the last position for 10 minutes.
We'll play a higher dexterity
I
character.
do, and I still fucking suck. Initiative order has not been a good thing for me ever.
Okay, look. Here's what you need. You need to have that special dice, your initiative dice. Don't. I won't tell anybody you fudged that roll. Okay. I got it. I got a nat 20. Really? Yeah. Okay. I didn't see you roll it. It's look. Everybody else did, right? Okay, good. It's right there.
I am 100% even in D&D. I think you should re-roll initiative every round.
Yeah. So I've played a lot that way with my initiative orders. It depends. The reason I stopped was when I started, quite honestly, playing with kids because it was about keeping a routine and they knew who went before them and who went after them. And it made it easier, my kids, so preteens, teens, it made it easier for them to stay on task and target to be able to do that. But when I played with other larger groups of adults, yeah, we rolled initiative every round, but there were some tasks that I had signed out to the tables and players. I had one player that, as we were beginning the next round, everybody rolled initiative, gave that player, this is what you're doing. So that player is gathering everybody's initiative so he can tell me the order for the players, and I'll drop the GM stuff in wherever it goes inside that order. Right. But that allowed me to prep myself for the next round. Those were also large groups. So that was a unique group. And I think that was 10 players that I had at the table for that
Oh,
particular.
jeez. I had the same problem. Okay, I had the same problem at the Pathfinder um thing that Avenue Studios did at Excel. Oh my god, I had it down.
At
DM
that
Towns.
one con you went to.
I swear, I had it down. I had it down in my head, and now I lost it. But anyways, Avenue Studios did a 10-person Pathfinder game, and I had the exact same problem. I still rolled low every time. I just bad at rolling initiative. Give me a card.
So I don't know if I've been on since my son's game that I ran for his birthday, where
No,
we
you haven't.
had, so I think I had 8 preteens sitting at the table. It was a challenge. I can't tell you how many natural 20s got rolled that night.
Question, real question. Are your preteens murder hobos? Because when I went to the con and I had a preteen and all he did was want to kill things.
Thankfully, no, but I think the answer was no because of 3 or 4 other people in the party that actually had played before and wanted to play and wanted to do whatever the task at hand was. And they kind of kept bounding people back into the game itself. And this is what we're trying to do.
I know it's a hard K. I just get it wrong. I did have it right. I know I did. Ugh. Anyways, so my problem with initiative is just all kinds of problems, and I think the card system from Dragonbane is the best initiative I've ever
Mm-hmm.
played.
It greatly simplifies it.
I would love to use roll low, but then I roll too high. It doesn't matter which system I'm doing. I just when I roll for initiative, I suck at initiative.
Go back to AD&D and those systems.
Well, what I find Avenue Studios is that when I play Dragonbane Initiative, because I'm dealing the cards every round, and they can swap players who don't want to go first can swap with players who want to go first. So it tends to even the playing field on who's where when people are going and what they're doing. So if I have a player that's going first, instead of holding an action, I can be like, "Hey, you with the lower thing that does more damage, you go first, and we'll see what happens, and then I'll react to you." Um, I also find that by dealing it out each round, actually dealing them a physical card, they pay attention more because they know where they go in initiative. Still, it's not like they don't know where they go in initiative. They do know where they go in initiative.
Right.
I like the year zero engine initiative. It's plain and simple. It's ever since I've played it, I pretty much adapted it in every single one of the games. Because I had the problem with Pirate Borg, where it was players go and then enemies go. That makes sense. That's fine. But the problem is my players could never choose who goes first. It was constantly who wants to go. And maybe it's because it was played online and not in person. That might be a situation.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's. I don't have much more on this.
Are you ready to roll for initiative, Dave?
I'm ready to roll for initiative. Let's see who's available to street raid out to, and see who's up for a raid. Let's see here. Uh, hmm. What are you guys saying? I missed a few things. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the
spell
giving
cards.
of cards.
Spell cards are huge. Yes, swapping player initiative is essential in the Dragon Main situation. And you guys just reminded me that I have to update my rules to allow that because I don't have that currently allowed. And I want it allowed. I want to be able to switch initiative order. Um, None of the people I thought were going to be on are on. I talked too long. Um, you know what? Let's go to D&D Denial. They're really good. Um, but I 100% agree. I 100% agree with you on letting players swap. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
essential and it's needed. Um, because if you get that healer that wants to go last, because let's be honest, us healers want to go last. Um, because usually play a healer. Uh, it's you want to go last. Because you want to heal everyone that's not you. So, D&D Denial. Let's go say hi to D&D Denial. They're playing Shadowrun. We talked about Shadowrun earlier. I like Shadowrun. Um, all right, folks. You guys all have a great time. We're back here on Friday for Grimwood Games. Grimwood City, I mean. I'm Grimwood Games. Grimwood City. And then we have next week for Geekout, we have Andy from Legendary Tales coming for talking about his new game. And then the week after, we have Dr. Bruce Banner for coming to talk about Mistmore. And then on June 18th, we have John from Nat Handsome Games coming to talk about his new game. So stick around and come see us for new and exciting stuff. All right. You guys have a wonderful night.